Doc on the Run. We help injured runners run.
Is it possible to run if you have a sesamoid fracture non-union? That's a great question, and that's what we're talking about today on the Doc on the Run podcast. All right, I got a great question from a runner who has a sesamoid fracture that has turned into a non-union. Now, the sesamoid bones are just two tiny little bones under the big toe joint, so I'm not going to draw any pictures because it doesn't really matter that much about the anatomy. If you have one, you already know what I'm talking about. They're very small. They're about the size of kidney beans, and they're basically the equivalent of your kneecap. Your kneecap is actually a type of sesamoid bone. It's just a really big one. The sesamoids under your big toe joint, they're a lot smaller. But when you break one of the sesamoids and you have two pieces of bone that don't heal back together and become one bone again, that's what we call a non-union. It didn't unite. It didn't get back together. It's not going to get back together. In her case, she actually used a bone stimulator and did a whole bunch of stuff for over a year. And then the doctor looked at it, looked at the x-ray and said, you have a non-union. And the doctor said, we should take it out. So this patient called me for a second opinion and she wanted to know my thoughts on surgery since she's a runner. Well, one thing to think about, those two little bones are embedded within a tendon and they're sitting in the tendon together. If you take one of them out, the tendon is then going to have more tension on one side or another, and your big toe can then drift one way or the other. You can get a bunion or you can get a thing called hallux varus. The big toe sticks over like a thumb, like that. It's a bad thing. So one of the unhappiest patients I ever treated had hallux varus. I didn't cause it, but she had a sesamoidectomy. It was removed surgically, and the toe drifted way over, and she couldn't put on shoes or anything else. I had to do a very creative surgery to fix it, and she was happy afterward, but I'll tell you, she gave me a lot of heartache. I was very worried about her because she was super unhappy, and understandably so. So you don't want that problem for sure. All that instability is a problem. And one of the things that this patient told me is she said, the doctor said, oh, it's no big deal. We do this all the time. And I said, really? Then just ask the doctor, are you going to guarantee that my toe is going to stay straight and I can run? Because they would turn white if you actually asked them that question out loud. Because they can't guarantee that. They can only guarantee that you're going to get a bill and a scar. That's it. So the question, though, can I run on a non-union, is an important one. Because, again, this doctor looked at her, said, it's non-union, it's not healing, it's been a year, it's not going to heal. You now have a bunch of scar tissue between those two pieces of bone. Very interesting point. I said, have you tried running? She said, yes, as a matter of fact. Now, today when I'm recording this is a Tuesday. She said, yeah, I ran today, I ran yesterday, I ran Sunday, and I had run on Friday. So I did my first run on Friday, then I ran on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and had no pain. And she said, granted, they were short runs. She hadn't run in a long time, so she ran about 2.5 miles or so, and she had pain. She had no pain at all. And so the question is like, okay, well, you don't have any pain at all. Is it really a problem? Or is it not a problem? And I said, look, maybe it's not a problem at all. You just have to stop and think, what's the risk? So if you get a non-union, there's a simple way, believe it or not, that doctors classify non-unions. Is it a painful non-union or is it a non-painful non-union? And if it's not a painful non-union, so what? There is a thing that happens in the sesamoids. It's actually called a bipartite sesamoid. It's a naturally occurring thing where it looks like you have two pieces of bone. And they are two separate pieces of bone, but they never united as you were growing as a baby. So they, instead of them, coming together and forming one solid bone, they just stay separate. But they're not loose. They're not sitting in there rolling around or anything. They're connected with a whole bunch of soft tissue, like a ligament. And so in effect, when you get a non-union, you have a bunch of scar tissue between the two pieces of bones that functions as a ligament, like the sort of ligament that exists between a bipartite sesamoid, those two pieces. And if that doesn't hurt, it's not a problem. A lot of people have that, and you might see it on your own x-ray. If you're getting an x-ray for a bunion or a different problem, think you have a stress fracture, you might see that. And the doctor may point it out sort of in passing, but never considers it to be a problem. So if you think about it, if you get to that place where you actually do have a non-union, but it's not painful and it's solid because you've really been protecting it, keeping it still and trying to get it to heal, and it's stable enough that it's not going to hurt when you run, then in that case, yes, you could run. Her question, though, was like, what is the real risk if I run? And I said, well, look, you just had a doctor threaten to take it out. That's the worst thing. If you think about a diabetic foot infection, what's the worst possible thing? You have to cut off the leg. So anything less than that is better. And in my mind, anything less than removing the sesamoid is better. So if you don't have any pain at all and you don't have swelling and you've explained that to the doctor and you've told them you started to run, I think it'd be crazy to do surgery to take it out just because it might get worse later. So you don't want to just run and ignore it and get necrosis or a problem with the sesamoids. So you have to talk to your doctor about it. But that's the way that I thought about it and explained it to this particular runner. So if you like this episode, please like it. Please subscribe. Make sure you talk to your doctor before you go run. And I'll see you in the next training.
Doc on the Run. We help injured runners run.